האם ישראל מצילה את המערב או גוררת אותו למלחמות?
No. Okay, sorry.
Like, come on, Dave.
It was a rhetorical question.
I know, but both sides are getting tough questions here.
The point is, Donald Trump would have had to respond even harder.
How many would have, could haves are we going to have here? This is not living in reality.
Let's give Josh a chance to respond.
Yes,
but first,
Josh, it didn't happen. It's a counterfactual.
One second.
If you hadn't have had breakfast this morning,
when people talk over each other, they don't like listening to that. So that's why I'm here. Josh, I want you to respond to that. But to Dave's point, do you think Israel has a secret nuclear program, and is that a problem?
Yeah, I think it's not particularly disputed that Israel has a nuclear program. We know exactly where it is based. This is not a particularly hidden thing there. I mean, it's so well known, in fact, Charlie, that I don't know exactly why it's officially a secret. Unofficially, it's not much of a secret. I'm non-Israeli. I have no idea why the exact policy is the way it is. I don't particularly have a program with it. As I said, it's one of the world's worst kept secrets. It kind of just is what it is. But more generally speaking, I don't understand why we're going so far down this rabbit hole of would have, could have, should have. The people, look, let's say something very simple here. The people who said that Donald Trump's involvement in the 37-hour operation of the B-2 bombers flying from Missouri to Iran and back with not a single shot fired at our boys. By the way, as I said, that was partially due to the fact that the IDF had so neutralized the Iranian Air Force and their defenses there. So the fact that he was able to accomplish that so amazingly there, we should have seen that coming, because it was actually pretty easily foreseeable. And the people who did not see that coming are the people who have lost credibility to comment, frankly, on these affairs. People who warned about thousands and thousands and thousands of dead American lives, who said that China and Russia would swoop in and that this would be World War III. Well, you know what? God bless you all, because you apparently survived World War III. It was the shortest World War III of all of our lifetimes.
I didn't say any of that, so what are you...
Dave, I restrain Josh. Josh, keep going.
Again, this is the Donald Trump foreign policy doctrine in action. It is quick surgical strikes. Roger Stone was talking about it earlier. It's exactly right. He is not a neocon. Neoconservatism, bad. Isolationism, also naive and stupid. Donald Trump agrees with both those things. The nationalist, realist, MAGA, America First approach to foreign policy is to have strong nationalist allies that are generally capable of securing and patrolling their own regions in a way that redounds not merely to the allies' national interests, but also to the American national interest. That is exactly what Israel has been doing for 40, 50 years, as they have taken out Islamist and Sharia supremacist thugs in Gaza, in Yemen, Hezbollah. I mentioned Fuad Shakur, the Hezbollah jihadi who killed 241 Marines in Beirut, Lebanon, in 1983. There's a million examples there. That is the definition of an America First ally, and what just happened in the 12-day war is an encapsulation of the America First Trump doctrine, that in this case, this tag team between the U.S. and Israel against the mutual threat of Iran in action.
Okay, so I want to now move, because it's important, but it's connected. So I think we have on full display a difference of opinion on the 12-day war. Now let's go to the next one. It's inferred in both of these points, but you only get to answer it as yes or no one at a time. Is Israel an ally of the United States?
Yes, of course.
No.
Okay, so now we have disagreement. We're going to now figure that out. And then I want to, then indicated in that is Israel influencing American politics? So I'm going to start with Josh, and then we'll go back to Dave. You say Israel is an ally. Spend a minute on that, and then address how some people have concerns that Israel is influencing the U.S. government, and then I'll allow Dave to have some time. Josh.
All right, there's multiple reasons why Israel is an ally. First and foremost, I think most people in this room are believers of some stripe, right? I am Jewish. Most of you are probably Christians, and God bless you for that. If you have any attachment whatsoever to the holy sites, if you have any attachment whatsoever to this narrow strip of land between the river and the sea, as the Hamas propagandists call it, then you're going to have some reason to care about this particular sliver of land. That's point number one. Let's just kind of get it out there, especially if you understand that we in Western civilization are fundamentally at war with barbarism, barbarism being best represented by the Islamists and Sharia supremacists. When you understand that Western civilization really just is the Bible, there is a special calling to have an ally with a certain part of the Middle East. That's point one. Point two is just the Islamist deterrent point, Charlie, which is that America has faced jihadism time and time again, going back for 40, 50 years. 9/11, obviously the most tragic example. We just saw it again on the streets of Bourbon Street in New New Orleans on January 1st, just a few months ago there. If you care about deterring Islamism from conquering Western civilization, a point that you have very astutely been talking about a lot recently on your TV hits and on social media, a very, very important point. If you care about defending Western civilization from the barbarians, you absolutely have to place a special premium on this particular relationship. And then third is that if you actually care as I do, paradoxically, I actually care a lot about China. In fact, I think that America's by far #1 biggest threat this century is China. If you care about effectuating this broader pivot to the Indo-Pacific, as American foreign policy people have been talking about for 20, 30 years now, you have to have some way of stabilizing the Middle East. The way to do that is not to just adopt the stupid and asinine Barack Obama foreign policy of appeasing America's enemies. And the way to do that is to embolden your allies. Again, that is the Trump doctrine.
So we didn't get to the second part of the question. So do you want to just start on the ally, and then we'll do...
Yeah.
You can incorporate both, Dave. He had 2 answers in a row, so take 3 to 4 minutes.
Well, look, this idea that the great battle of our time is us versus the Islamists, us versus these barbarians, that's really the problem here in the United States of America. Lebanon, that's what you got to worry about. Listen, I think everyone here, all you guys should know this at this point. Our problem in America is the deep state of the United States of America, okay? They're the ones who framed Donald Trump for treason. His own intelligence agencies framed the sitting U.S. president. And you know what that deep state wants, by the way? Permanent war. That's what they always want. That's how they and their friends make their money. And so all of this talk is just so ridiculous, man. I mean, this talk about how, if you care about the holy sites in Israel, okay, sure. Obviously, Christians and Jews and Muslims have a connection to that land. But that doesn't mean we have to bomb Iran for Israel.
Who's saying that?
That doesn't... Well, we just bombed
אם
Iran.
המוסלמים יכבשו את אירופה,
Okay.
ארצות הברית תהיה הבאה בתור.
It doesn't mean that we have to support Israel slaughtering people in Gaza. None of that has anything to do with the holy sites. And in fact, a lot of sites get destroyed when there's bombs flying. But listen, the real problem for America, if you want to even talk about the Islam taking over America or taking over Europe, well, how did that happen? That happened because we completely destabilized the region, fighting war after war after war that did nothing but slaughter hundreds of thousands of people. And then our Western governments had the most insane open immigration policy that was basically suicidal. We're doing this to ourselves. We're $37 trillion in debt, and we're looking for another enemy to go fight. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, we've spent $20 trillion on empire and wars. And you know what? We can't tax enough money to pay for it. We can't borrow enough money to pay for it. So what do? We print the money. And now you guys are coming out into the world and you're wondering why you're 6 figures in debt from college and you're getting a job at DoorDash and the average house goes for $800,000. Because we've destroyed the currency chasing these monsters that were never any threat to our country. So listen, one quick point. Adolf Hitler and the Nazis couldn't bring down America. Joseph Stalin and the commies couldn't bring down America. The British Empire couldn't bring down America. But you think the Hezbollah in Lebanon are a threat to us? They're a problem for Israel to deal with. We
say
got
that
our
to
own
the families
problems.
of the Beirut barracks bombing in 1983. Seriously, say that to them. Have you spoken to the families of the people who have been killed in 1983 in Beirut, Lebanon, the people who have been killed by those IEDs in Iraq that you're just casually dismissing? Have you actually spoken to any of these families?
First of all, yes, I have.
The 9/11 families, any of them?
Yes, I have.
Are you aware of Iran's involvement in 9/11?
Yeah, okay. So you're just asking me questions over my attempt to answer them. Stupid.
This is why I'm here.
מתחיל להתעצבן.
Why don't we both just take a deep breath, because they want to see a debate where they can make their mind up. They don't want to see interruptive stuff, okay? That's why this is going to be a different type of discussion. So, let me both steelman your both arguments, so you have to answer to me, okay? So, Josh, well, actually to Dave first and then to Josh. Josh is saying, what about all of the Islamist death that they're responsible for? Beirut bombings. You mentioned the Shiite. That's basically the essence of your argument, right, Josh? By saying, did you talk to, he's saying, why are you minimizing this? That would be Josh's contention. Is that fair, Josh?
And 9/11, there's so many examples.
Right. Dave, respond to that, and then I will throw it back to Josh.
Well, I certainly don't think I in any way minimized any of those deaths. I made the point that that Ronald Reagan still sold weapons to Iran a couple years after that, and I made the point that those roadside weapons were built in Iraq by Shiites there. That's not minimizing it. This is a huge part of the reason why we never should have invaded Iraq to begin with, because we get our bravest young boys killed. It's tens of thousands of them have committed suicide in the last few years, and that doesn't seem to stop anyone from wanting to pursue the next attack. So the point is, right, that I think if we want to really understand this stuff, it's wise to look at what some of the motivating factors for the hatred against us is. All you got to do is listen. Yes, I have talked actually to families of people who have died in Iraq. You know what? Overwhelmingly, they're non-interventionist anti-war people now. In fact, did you know that in 2008 and in 2012, Dr. Ron Paul got more money from active duty military than all the other candidates combined, including Barack Obama, because the active duty military are actually the ones who are the most hardcore anti-war.
Again,
so don't invoke them to try to sell another war.
But Dave, I'm going to follow up with a tough question. I want you to make the case, because I don't want to have you be able to get past this. You say Israel is not an ally. That is not an opinion that people hear a lot. Why is that?
Look, all I'm saying is Israel has at every turn, and look, again, when I say Israel, I'm talking about the government of Israel. I'm not talking about the people there. And I'm specifically talking about Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party, who have been in control for most of this time, for most of my lifetime. Yeah, and most of the 21st century. And so when I say they have been constantly pushing America toward more aggressive policies, toward getting in more fights. And just like I always say, if you went out to the bar every single night with your friend, and every night your friend's trying to convince you to get into a fight, and while you're beating a lot of people up, you're also taking a lot of wounds, and you're going to jail, and you're getting in trouble, you got to stop hanging out with that friend. And so I think that my position, I don't believe in wars of aggression and wars of choice. I don't believe in sanctions. I don't believe in that. We should be friends with Israel. We should trade with Israel and have a good relationship with them. But you know what? I also don't believe in welfare, and they shouldn't get another dime of U.S. taxpayer money, and they should not. So hold on. Their lobby should register as a foreign agent.
That's a good segue. Finish that.
And they should stop blackmailing our politicians.
Got it.